Welcome to the latest Tending the Garden program. Tonight we're going to be talking about plastics, which when I was sort of brainstorming programs that I wanted to have, there was recycling, which I think we're going to do next month. But really, and then when we did the water program, she ended up talking about microplastics. And so it's really, I'm starting to understand that the issue of plastics really encompasses all these different areas. It could be our water, it could be our health, it could, it's our ecosystems, all kinds of things. So Sherrie, it's Sherrie, right?
Sherrie.
Mm-hmm. Can you introduce yourself and kind of how you got interested in this topic?
Sure. I'm rather new to Oklahoma. I moved here in 2010. And when I came down to Newcastle and built a house on my kids' property, I had time on my hands because I retired. And I realized that plastic pollution is really getting to be a problem. Out here in the country, the plastic bags blow across the countryside and land in the fences and trees. And I was so disgusted by it. I thought, I need to work on that. And we had a group with the Sierra Club that decided to form a committee on plastic bags, basically back then. And we called it OK Bags Away. You can still see us on Facebook, and we post, various things on Facebook for you all to learn more about this. But since then, I've realized, like Kat is saying, plastic pollution is in every part of our lives. It is so much more than just plastic bags. So from there, I started working on my committee to help people understand why plastic, single-use plastic, is so detrimental to our environment.
Okay, great. So this was just a volunteer passion that you've had. That's amazing.
Right. They call me the bag lady. I'll accept it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So it's really, I think that's really inspiring because, you don't have to be an expert in a certain field or work for a certain organization. It's really, the onus is on us to care about our own environment and our own surroundings and what's happening for our children or grandchildren. And it sounds like you educated yourself.
A lot of it is, and there's so much resource out there for us now. But what really got us going in the Sierra Club was that Norman was trying to pass a city ordinance to ban plastic bags. And they were going to charge 10 or 15 cents for each plastic bag somebody used at the grocery store. And it's been proven all over the country and in countries like Germany and France and all over Europe, even in Kenya, when I was there weren't any plastic bags because the government decided they didn't want plastic bags polluting their countryside. And so if you charge a minimal amount, 10 or 15 cents, it's going to remind people, oh, I can bring my own bag and do it for free. And people start, remembering to bring their reusable bags and not use the plastic bags. So anyway, Norman, being a rather progressive town, decided they were going to do that. When the Oklahoma legislature got word that we were being a little bit too progressive, they passed a law that preempted cities from passing ordinances like that.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know this.
And they stopped it right like that. So as a Sierra Club, of course, we really cared about that. And we thought, how can we get around this? And about that time, COVID came along. and it just stopped everything we were doing. So we've tried to get the program back up and running. And the main thing I think we have to do in Oklahoma is to convince individuals to stop using single-use plastic. And the reason for that is our government is pretty much controlled by oil and gas. And they don't want us to ruin the profits for them making plastic. It's become a really big industry with them seeing the signs about electric cars replacing the need for fuel. So here we are in a state where they think we shouldn't control single-use plastic. And what we're doing at this point is trying to visit with individual groups, and something like this is wonderful, Kat. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your group. We need to pass the word that we can replace single-use plastic. And if we all get on board and realize what microplastics are doing to us, our bodies, our health, then maybe eventually the government legislators will start realizing they need to do something to help us out.
Okay, so you started with bags, and then you got engaged with Beyond Plastics. What are the other kind of issues right now in terms of plastics in our environment?
Well, the other big one is buying water in plastic bottles. And do you remember a couple of years ago, they came out with statistics on how much microplastics we drink when we drink water out of a plastic bottle? It's like 240,000 pieces of microplastics that our bodies are consuming. And maybe people don't understand why microplastics are bad for us. Microplastics are chemicals, and these chemicals have been proven to cause cancers and other problems in your body. Every day we eat, breathe, or drink as much as the size of a credit card in microplastics. We breathe it, we drink it, we eat it. And if we don't stop this production of single-use plastics, our whole environment is going to be inundated with so much plastic we can't avoid it anymore. It's almost that way already. So
yeah, we talked about that in our previous program about water with that it's a problem for agriculture. That it's in our sewage systems, and we're expelling it through waste, and then it's going into our agriculture and definitely in our water. And there's not really a way at this time to filter it out. Although I did just read that boiling your water can get rid of the microplastics, although that seemed weird to me, because then are you just sort of melting it? I don't know. But
then do you just put it into your air that you breathe,
There's that too. And then it's like, well, who's going to boil? I mean, and we're kind of spoiled in America that we don't have to necessarily boil all of our water before we drink it, but or you just use it. I mean, all the things you're using for water, but yeah. So is the thing with, like, I do remember, this thing about plastic water bottles is that you have sort of different types of plastics, and some are more like not permeable, but there's, obviously you can tell that some plastics are harder or more substantial than others. And the least substantial that they are, I'm sure there's a scientific name for this. Like a plastic water bottle is very flimsy plastic, and that that's like a worst case scenario to come in contact with your water. Is that kind of the deal?
Well, most plastic bottles that hold our liquids, whether water, sodas, or whatever, are not good because they not only let plastic slough off into the liquid, they also ruin the environment when they're disposed.
Right.
Out of all the bottles that are produced in our country, only between 5 and 10% are ever recycled. And what they're recycled to is just another kind of single-use plastic that's bad for the environment. So it's like a lose-lose situation. You can't win with this.
Yeah, and we're gonna. Oh, go ahead.
The EPA passed a bill last year that limited the PFAS that's going into drinking water. PFAS are those forever chemicals, and they listed 6 of them that had to be filtered out by cities from the water supply. And if they do that, that will help a lot of the chemicals, because if you're filtering for those 5 or 6, you're going to stop a lot of other chemicals from going into the water supply. So that was encouraging. I'm not sure whether that bill will continue being enforced with our new administration. So that could be a problem.
I actually think I heard that was one of the first things that was rolled back, was that the EPA regulations on PFAS. It was actually, because now I have to correct myself, that Grayson talked about forever chemicals, not microplastics, but she said that it's all the same issues. Like it's in everything, and that we're not really able to filter this out very well. I think after we did that program, someone told me that, and I said, oh, I should have included that in the program, that these are more in threat. And she did say too, her focus was, it's maybe unlikely that we're going to either have the ability to filter these things out of our environment, or water, or food, or whatever. And also unlikely that will be enforced, that will be a priority, that would be funded, et cetera. So again, it does then put the onus on the individual to make different decisions about the things that they're buying, the things that they're using, the things they're consuming. And I think the plastic water bottle thing is so interesting, because from my understanding, plastic water bottles or bottled water is not regulated.
No,
so a lot of it is just tap water from somewhere else. So it's always puzzled me that you have an issue with drinking tap water, but you're really most likely drinking tap water just from a different state or whatever. And
exactly.
So what exactly is the benefit to, because it's so it just produces so much waste. And in our next program, we're going to talk about recycling, and I think get a little bit more into, recycling seemed like the answer at various points, but now we're kind of learning, like, well, you hate to discourage people from having that mindset of, oh, we could reuse these things or whatever, but or throwing things away into a landfill. But also it is unfortunately more complicated and more nuanced in terms of what actually gets recycled, what can be recycled, and then what it becomes after it is recycled. I think that all the news articles came out this year about the black plastic. That was really wild. I mean, I had a black plastic spatula in my house.
I think all of us did. In fact, I'm still using mine, I think.
That it's this the whole, that sort of like, it's a very complicated, it's not a simple process. It's sensors in the recycling centers don't pick up black. So you're not recycling black plastic. So then there's no recycled black plastic to create new items other than electronic waste. So that's what they're using for black plastic. Oh my gosh.
I think the main thing is recycling's not the answer. The oil companies knew back in the 50s that this wasn't going to work. They had someone working on this, figure out how to recycle this plastic. And they came out with the statement, well, they didn't tell all of us because they didn't want to admit it to the public, but they really didn't have a way to recycle. So what we have to do is find ways to replace plastic. I brought a couple things to my desk this morning, and I want you guys to know how easy it is. Once you find a store where they sell products that do not use plastic packaging, you will get hooked. And since 2018, I have made it my project to fill my home with products that are not using plastic. And boy, it's still a struggle because you can't buy fruit if it's not wrapped up in a plastic box, But there are a lot of things we can do. Here's a toothpaste I use. It's in a paper bag. They're little tablets, and it's called Unpaste. No plastic at all. I have a shampoo bar I use. And I've used this kind of bar since 2008. This little tiny bar is so concentrated, that bar of shampoo lasts me 3 or 4 months. These are just common sense, good products that we can all use. I use Dove soap. I don't buy liquid soap for my shower. And I use a deodorant that comes in a reusable container. It's aluminum, and the inserted part with the deodorant is aluminum. And you know that aluminum is recyclable very well. So there we have another product that avoids plastic. And for my liquid hand soap, I don't buy my liquid hand soap in a plastic bottle. I have a glass bottle sitting in the bathroom. I take this into the refillery shop. They squirt it full of liquid hand soap, and I go home and I refill. So the secret is to refill, not buy plastic. And there's so many things. My whole kitchen is full of products like this.
Yes, we're lucky in Norman. We have a resupply.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think you're right about getting hooked, because the more I find products like that, as I need to replace things, I'm like, ooh, I think I can get this done at resupply.
Resupply, yeah.
I think, I saw last time they have hand sanitizer. So I was like, oh, I can go and get my hand sanitizer there and refill it rather than having to buy a new.
Exactly.
Container. So it is a little addictive, and just feels really nice, because why are we buying all these extra products? In Oklahoma City, they also have a resupply, and they also have, I saw a different one recently that was more for like beauty products and stuff like that. I'm not sure about Tulsa. I might have to find a new store in Tulsa that would do that. I'm sure they have some. It's really, I know sometimes it's like, well, you can make your own. I was making my own deodorant for a while.
Yeah.
And it just it wasn't great. So, and I realized that the reason that I wasn't wanting to buy store-bought deodorant was because of the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
And I found one that it was like in a I don't know if it's cardboard, I think.
Yeah,
Cardboard
I've
container.
had one like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, good. Now I can stop having to make my own deodorant because
I actually found that at Walgreens, which surprised me.
yeah, you can buy that.
In a cardboard tube. Yeah. I want to mention Refillery up in Oklahoma City. I just visited that store recently on 16th Street. Oh my gosh, it is wonderful. The whole store is filled with refillable products and plastic avoiding products. So everything from dryer balls to hand cleanser that is sloughs off the dead skin, that kind of product. A whole wall full of spigots where you can get laundry soap in your own bottle. You can get shampoo and conditioner. And so you take your bottles in there and just have them fill them up. Yeah, I wanted to mention, though, all of us that have time to go into these stores are very lucky.
Yes.
My daughter is working probably 50, 60 hours a week, and she doesn't have time to shop like that, bring her own bottles in. And I understand a lot of working people are like that. There are several online stores that offer these products. Renee gets hers from Grove Inc., groveinc.com. And Blue Land is another company that has very, very good products for replacing plastic. So for you working people that say, I don't have time for this, know that you can get good products online.
Yeah, or people in rural areas too, where
Exactly.
not in the metro areas or whatever that don't have those types of stores. Because I think Resupply only came into Norman maybe 3 years ago or something. Before that, we didn't really have there. The Earth had some things that you could refill. But this is kind of more of a new opportunity. And I think Refillery is the one that I just heard about recently.
It really impressed me, I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even I got a shampoo bar at Walmart.
Really?
A shampoo bar in a paper container.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. I think the more of us that request those things and buy them, the better off we are. One of my friends here in town bought the laundry detergent in sheets. Have you tried those?
I haven't tried those.
You can buy a box of them, and each sheet can be torn in half. You throw it in with your clothes in the washing machine, and all of the concentration that it has releases into your washing machine and works very, very well. So she found those at the Target store in Norman. It's just a matter of your radar going up and realizing, no, I don't want to buy that plastic bottle of shampoo. What can I replace it with?
Yes, because it is, it's really about making different choices when it comes down to it. That does take, again, to your point about, working parents or people who, and I do acknowledge in all of our programs that this type of stuff, all of these suggestions, all these tips or whatever, are very much a privilege. Not everybody has access to that. We would never suggest that everybody should be doing these things because they just don't have the opportunity or the budget. It does take a little more time. It does take a little bit more work. It takes a little bit more money sometimes. Yeah. But those of us that can, to just take a second longer to rethink making different decisions about, certain products. I'm at, let's say one grocery store or whatever, but let's say Aldi, for example, like or Trader Joe's, to your point about stuff, produce wrapped in saran wrap and styrofoam and plastic, and it's really bizarre. That I just won't, I don't, I'm at that store, but I know that I can get that, at a different place. It's not going to be utilizing extra packaging. Like if I know I can get it somewhere else in bulk, and not that I'm making an extra trip, it's just that I know I'm going to be going to that other place another time. It's closer to home or whatever. And
Yeah,
I just leave that on my list to get at a different place. So it's just just different decisions here and there can make a big difference when we're all doing that.
for sure. For sure. And there are some products that you can make on your own. A friend of mine here told me last week that they make their own bar soap. And I think I'll get the recipe from her and post it on my OK Bags Away, because if we can share those kind of things to help each other, I've even heard that you can mix vinegar and soda to kill weeds in your garden. We're so against spraying the yard for weeds. Oh my gosh, a dandelion. And if we learn that this is okay, this is part of nature, we can stop spraying our yards and gardens with chemicals that hurt our wildlife, our birds, and even us. Our children playing on those yards should not be exposed to these kind of chemicals. So there's a class through Beyond Plastics. If you'll go onto their website, they teach it a couple of times a year, and it's learning about what you can do to be able to be an activist about plastic pollution. The classes are coming up the first week in May. So if anyone is interested in that, just bring up beyondplastics.org. Thank you. And sign up for the class. There are 2-day classes. Each class lasts 2 hours. So I took it last fall, and it was so interesting. There's something else you can do at home if you want to know more, is to watch The Story of Stuff. Stream it on your iPhone or whatever. And they have a documentary out now, The Story of Plastic, and you can see that on YouTube. So become more educated in what's happening in our environment. And you can also become an advocate to help us stop the use of single-use plastic.
Yeah, I think in general, we do have a stuff problem. And, what's happened with the story with a lot of things that we cover is that, there's this new product and everybody's excited about it, and it makes things cheaper, which is good for families and people with low income. Everyone gets excited about it. It makes this thing easier and cheaper, and we can do things we hadn't done before, and things are more accessible and take less time or whatever. And then, down the line, we realize that there's a big cost to that. And, but it's really hard to sort of culturally undo this sort of pervasive mindset around disposability, things being single, just seeing, like, with, for example, I always think about cups at restaurants I just was flying, and you get your drink, and this airline actually gave you the full can of whatever you were getting, but then they gave you this plastic cup with the ice in it or whatever. And they're just then they come through literally 10 minutes later, they come through the aisles and are just putting all of it in a trash bag. And just thinking of all the flights that happen, of course, this is what I'm thinking about on all of the flights that are happening in the country right now. Like, this is what's happening, is that's just like this, literally using this cup, plastic cup, for 10 minutes so that your beverage can be a little bit colder.
Yeah.
And then it's just immediately thrown away. I mean, it's really just unreal what we've sort of become acclimated to, that we don't think through. This is really impractical.
It is. And even the glasses that say they're compostable aren't always really compostable. There's an article in the website for Beyond Plastics that tells you the whole facts about compostability of these products. Because, last year for a meeting, I was so proud I found compostable glasses, right? And then I read that, well, they're not really, unless they're in a real professional program where they compost this stuff and it reaches a certain temperature and blah, blah, blah. So there's so much to it, but you have to realize we're not perfect. We're learning, and everything we try to do, we can learn from. So don't give up, keep worrying and figuring out the best thing to do for our families and our health.
Yeah, because I do, I was just traveling, and I do just make a lot of decisions that are based around sustainability, or so, we're out and about and getting a drink, and I just want, or like on that, so I didn't get a drink on the airplane on all the flights that I was on, because they won't not give you a plastic cup. And so I just didn't have a drink. And or like if I don't have a reusable cup at like a gas station or something like that, I just won't get anything, because I don't want to get a new cup. I don't want to get a plastic bottle. If they have an aluminum can, I'll get that, because that's easier to recycle. But it is just those sort of different choices. And sometimes that means that you're just not getting the thing that you would like to get. But I think that's probably, we've just, again, have become very spoiled in terms of wanting these things when we want them in that moment, and not thinking about
instant. Right. Yeah. I have a suggestion. I didn't bring it to my computer here this morning, but I have an aluminum water bottle that's insulated. When I put ice water in that in the morning, it is still ice cold at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And I have this big purse I carry because I carry this kind of stuff. And I have that bottle with me all the time. And even when you're traveling, you can empty it when you get to the airport. You go through security, and then they have water fountains all along the hallways where you can stop and refill your water bottle. Mm-hmm. Then you have your own water bottle on the whole trip while you're flying. And I have found that's really, really useful to have that with me. The other thing is, people say, oh, I would take reusable bags to the grocery store. I just can't remember to do it. They'll be out in the car and I go into the groceries. Every one of my friends has shared that with me. Well, this little set of bags we get from Sierra Club is just this big. And again, it fits into my purse, the side pocket. Well, I never go into a store without those bags because they're in my purse. So try to get your way of doing things so you don't have to remember. You just have it there with you. And I know a lot of people don't like to carry a big purse, but it's better than using plastic bags.
Yeah, that's another good one, because my partner always wants things to be tidy. So, you come home from the grocery store, you have all your reusable bags, you empty them out, and then he wants to fold them up and put them in this little area in this, our back off of our kitchen. Like, okay. So they needed to go back into the car.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna, especially I don't like to plan on going to the grocery store. I like to just, if I'm going by there, I'll pop in.
Yeah.
And so I just want them to be in my car. So it's been a little hard to sort of break him of that one, like to put them away. Like, no, we're not going to put them away because then we won't use them. So I always immediately, after I've emptied them, all the groceries out, I take them and hang them on the front door handle.
Yeah.
And then that way, next time I go outside out to my car, I just grab those and just throw them in the back seat.
Great. You've got a system, and that's what it takes.
Yeah. What do you do for like produce bags at the grocery store?
You can get those also. It's a real lightweight cloth bag. And so when I go to the grocery store, I put a few of those in with my reusable bags. And then I don't have to use the flimsy plastic that they have at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. And on occasion, if I had forgotten to take those, I'll put them into the bags I have here for the shopping cart. And when I get up to the checkout counter, I just run that big onion through by itself. You can get by with a lot of stuff they don't really care about. It doesn't have to be in a bag. And so you weigh the onion, you put it on through, and you put it in your shopping bag. So, but those little flimsy, lightweight bags are perfect for getting, large amounts of fruit, vegetables, and all that. And look for these stores that have single-use produce out instead of bagged up. I've been pretty pleased with the number of stores I've found lately that do put their produce out in single pieces.
Yeah, that's another great example of a different choice. If I, will always get just my own single pieces rather than buying the ones that are already out.
Yeah. So, that's about all I had thought of. Do you have any other questions you had thought about getting ready for this?
With those refillable stores, I took my sister there about a month ago and was surprised. She's from the Bay Area, so I was surprised that she hadn't been to a place like that before, but she didn't seem to understand how it worked.
Oh, so really?
You can, you take your own containers, like your mason jar or whatever, and then when you go inside, they have a little scale and these little scannable tabs, and you weigh your mason jar, for example, and then it records the weight on the tab. And that way, when you fill it up with the product and you take it up to the counter, it deducts the weight of your mason jar from the total. So you're not paying for the weight of your container. They've figured out a way to account for that. So that was a question she had. She didn't quite understand. So
yeah, it's quite a product that they have going on there, because they've got it all figured out.
So Beyond Plastics also, we found out, has a faith-based element as well. So they have a faith leader on staff to help with faith communities engage with this issue. So I can pop that one up. So that's also a program that they're interested in and helping faith communities organize around this, because, when you're talking about the onus is on the individual to make different decisions and to be educated, faith communities, that's the whole basis for tending the garden, is that faith communities as people of faith are stewards of creation and should be at the forefront of all kinds of environmental activism. That, you know, your faith compels you to protect our earth. So there's an element there to engage faith communities in this work. So and it sounds like they have a lot of resources in terms of educating you, preparing you, giving you the facts to be able to do some meaningful work in your community. Because I think you're right, that's where this has to be done, right, is in our communities.
Exactly. There's one more thing I hadn't mentioned. They had a whole program about PVC plastic pipes last year. And in the Biden administration, part of his infrastructure program, he was giving lots of money to communities to replace lead pipes leading into their house for water. And the program we took part in about PVC pipes was really eye-opening, because PVC pipes carrying water to your house for drinking water are polluting our water with plastic slough, you know, how the plastic sloughs off into the water. And so instead of replacing lead pipes with PVC, Beyond Plastics has suggested using alternatives. They've mentioned different products that really need to be investigated to see which ones are the most financially available to communities. But to replace lead with PVC is like, you know, substituting one bad thing with another. So there's a study on beyondplastics.org that actually tells why this is bad and what to do about it. I've printed it out, and I'm going to take it to Newcastle to my water engineer and let him know just why this is so bad. After we had the class with Beyond Plastics, I drove down Highway 76, and there was this huge pile of PVC pipes being, you know, getting ready to be put in our, adding new water lines to our houses. And I'm going, no, how do we stop this? It's amazing once you start learning how much plastic pollution can affect your environment. It's you sort of start freaking out, you know, it's unreal. So be aware of that. And if your city is replacing their lead pipes, get online to the website and print off that study for them so they can understand why it's a bad idea.
Okay. Yeah, I liked your point about, you know, we're not trying to be perfect. And I think that's a pretty big message for all of our programming is, I think that intimidates people or discourages them, that, you know, oh, it's too much work, or, oh, it's everywhere anyways, so I can't. There's a real defeatist type of, I think with climate change overall, there's like a real, people get overwhelmed and they just sort of give up a little bit. So I like these kind of conversations that are just sort of like, well, you know, what worked, what didn't work, what do you try to do? What are some compromises? What are some things that are kind of maybe in between? If you don't have as much time or whatever. And that it's not about doing everything 100% perfect and having, I mean, it would be great to have zero plastic in your home and in your life, but but at least just sort of making a few different decisions to reduce that use. Whether that it's at the grocery store or the gas station, or just thinking through the consequences of that, because I was recently diagnosed with cancer, and I'm pretty young. And and it seems like there's a lot of younger people being diagnosed with cancer. And the main reason they think that's happening is because of environmental exposure to chemicals and plastics and that kind of thing. I mean, there's just real consequences to this stuff. So if we can make some of those different decisions, I think that's really helpful for all of us. Trying to think of some other kind of everyday decisions that I make to try to reduce plastic. I mean, it is difficult. It's definitely becoming, but I agree that, once there's more demand for that, then there'll be less supply. It's anything, we do have power as consumers to drive what products are out there.
Kat, there's a program coming on Beyond Plastics in May, and you can find the sign up area on their website. And it's a program with 2 doctors and a researcher talking about microplastics in the brain and heart. And I think all of us would be well informed to listen into that and see what is happening in actual studies today, showing how this is affecting our health. Get online again. Beyondplastics.org is your place to be if you're interested in knowing more about plastics.
So what are some other volunteer opportunities that people could get involved with if they feel strongly about this?
As far as doing things, if you can get educated in the programs that they have for advocates on the website, then we can always use volunteers to go into churches and meeting groups and talking about how to replace single-use plastics with the products some of the products I've shown you today. I'll be up at Scissortail Park Saturday for Earth Day, and I'll have out a whole table full of supplies that I use in my everyday life replacing plastic. And if people could do things like that, it seems like it's going to take one-on-one, one person going into a group talking about it. This guy in my book club, he said, "Sherrie, I want to tell you, I will never buy another bottle of water." And, it sounds sort of cruel to be reminding people how bad plastics are, but it's affecting our environment and our lives. I think you can't say too much about it. So, people volunteering like that. You can get a hold of me on my Facebook page, and it's Sherrie McNall. You can see it spelled out here. Let me know that you care about this and you would like to be part of that group through the Sierra Club or Beyond Plastics. Our group name is Beyond Plastics at Greater Oklahoma. Let's see exactly. Beyond Plastics, Greater Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And one of the ladies had taken the college level class, 7-week class with Beyond Plastics. And then she found me. She lives up in Edmond and has become a volunteer to help with that. So however you can decide you want to help, we will be appreciative of anything you can do.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And that's kind of what the basis for our programming, especially the eco chats that we have, is that that's how differences were made in my life, is that just talking to friends and hearing what other people were doing and like, oh, okay, well, maybe I could try that too. And I just thinking about, I was so proud a couple of Christmases ago, my niece, everyone was here for Christmas, and she had asked for, and I would say that she grew up in an environment that's very into sustainability by any means. But she's gotten really into it. She has a new baby, and I think she was looking into, some of that stuff around pregnancy and babies, and has gotten really into it. And so she asked for a whole set of Pyrex for Christmas. And so my sister, who's also not very into sustainability, got it for her because it was on her wish list. And I was just thinking about, how her just getting that and making that decision and having that on her wish list or whatever is sort of like introducing this to these people who really maybe wouldn't consider something like that's really powerful. Not that she was like lecturing or she wasn't really talking about plastics or whatever. She was just like modeling, this is what's important to me in my household for my kids, and to get rid of plastic around my food. And I think that's how changes are made. I totally agree.
Yeah, I've even given gifts of shopping bags, reusable shopping bags, as gifts, because they're $20 if you buy them online. So, I mean, that's something that not everybody wants to spend $20 on. And it seems like it's a nice gift to share with people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sherrie, thank you so much for all of that you do, and for being you, and for being here today to share with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I wish the best for your group, and let's all make plastic a thing of the past.
Great. That sounds great. Thank you.